My name is Yara. I am the program chief, the grants management chief. And with me, I have
John Aragon, management analyst.
we also have in the group Carla.
Hi, everyone. Carla Delgado, management analyst.
And we have Michaela.
Hi, I'm Michaela, grants management trainee.
I'm not sure if we have Elena here, but Elena is also a supervisor in our unit. Sharon is also a grants management analyst. Michael is out. He's a grants management analyst too. And we have a position open, which we'll talk more about that. We are the new unit for State Fiscal 25. There's a few things that are changing, and I want to kind of begin with that. We are restructuring our unit. We used to be 2 units under DCFS, so Grants Management, Victim Services, and Child Welfare. We are now becoming one whole big family. So this is why we are providing training to explain our new process and to make sure that we are able to answer any questions you guys may have on how we are going to be trying to start our State Fiscal 25. I also want to explain to you guys that we just had an audit by DOJ. We had an audit in the month of May. Things came out of the audit that we have to restructure, we have to relook at, and we have to make sure that we reinforce some of our processes. And the merging of both units is it's a reason of why we have to start doing things a little different. So things are going to change, and I apologize ahead of time because some of the changes that are going to be happening are because that's the guidance we received from the feds. It has not necessarily have to do with your agency particularly. It's not individually targeted to any agencies. But we will be seeing changes on the way we do our processes. Okay. We are going to do the presentation. It's gonna informal. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Note it on the Teams notes, meetings, chats, and or just say your question. Just speak up. Okay. This is very informal. We don't have rules. Now I'm going to share. I'm going to share our PowerPoint, and let me know. Did you see our PowerPoint? Thank you. So today is our last webinar for request for reimbursement. We've had 4. We've done 2 a day, 2 last week, and 2 this week. So if you need additional assistance, if you still need any clarifications, please reach out to us. Please reach out to me, John, or any of our members, and you will have our contact information on this PowerPoint, and we will make it accessible on the chat. Okay, this is the agenda. We're going to discuss the GMU grants, State Fiscal 25 RFR processing, the backup documentation, the form, and the workbook. I just now that I'm reading the agenda, if you are currently receiving child welfare grants through our division, if you're already receiving any of our child welfare funds, you do not need to stick around. What we are doing is we are adapting all the victim services, subgrantees and processes to the child welfare process. So if you're already receiving child welfare, CBCAP, Title 4B2, CTF, all of those, please, you can stay and hang out. But if you're already doing that and you're submitting your reimbursements that way, you don't need to stay. We're doing exactly the same thing we've been doing with the child welfare grants. You're more than happy to stay, but not necessarily. Okay, so this is our agenda. Important reminder, for every item we need an invoice, proof of payment, and cost allocation. This is very important. 3 items that we're going to need with every RFR where you're requesting reimbursement, unless it's a 0 amount. This is the grants management unit, the team. So you will have all of us listed here. If you have any questions, please reach out to any of us. We should be able to answer your question or direct you to someone that can answer the question. We have a program specialist 3 position open. If any of you are interested, please check out our announcement in the state website. But we are looking to fill this program specialist 3. We're going to begin with the basics. I think most of you already know this information. I want to make sure that it's clear. This is the process, the steps taken that have to be taken in order for you to receive reimbursement. So the RFR submission, that is when you submit your RFR, when you submit that form that you want us to reimburse. Carla, can you please put the email where this needs to go? Right now, I know that Victim Services has their own email box where you guys send this information. That email box is still good. It will be eliminated. It will be deleted as of December 1st, 2024. So for now on, we're going to provide you with the funds request box where we would like you to start sending that information. Eventually, as I explained, you will be receiving emails and reminders and notices, that we are asking everybody to transition to this inbox. Once we receive your RFR, the RFRs are reviewed for completeness. So if your RFR is incomplete, you will get an email and would get the, kind of resubmit. We're missing information. Communication between you and your GPA or manage analyst are going to be coming back and forth because we need to get all the documentation. Once we received all the information, then the processing begins. So our team is going to look at your documentation, your request. They're going to be able to validate or not validate your expenses, and they will then recommend reimbursement. If they are not able to validate all the expenses that you're requesting funds for, they will still go ahead and pay what they can validate. So if you're asking for, let's say, a $5,000 reimbursement for 1 month, and they can only validate 3, then they're only going to give you 3, and then you'll get a note and you'll get information saying we were not able to validate or to refund you for this because we're missing this, and this, and that can resubmit it and it will be paid. So we're just not holding the full amount. Back in the day, we used to hold the full amount, and that just causes a burden on the agencies. So we're no longer doing that. We will reimburse you what we can validate, and we can always come back and revisit the other items that were not reimbursed. And finally, when we are done and the request is signed by the grants management or the GPA, then a supervisor gets to review it and final approval so that it goes to fiscal. Fiscal has their own processes and check systems so that they can process their side. Now, from the time of submission to the final processing, we have 30 days. So it's 30 days for us to complete your payment. Now, 30 days go by fast, especially if information is missing and we're waiting for, if there's communication back and forth and holidays, weekends, and things like that come through, then it gets a little complicated. So it's very important that you work with your grants management or your GPA to try to understand the process and get that technical assistance as soon as possible. Any questions?
Good.
Any questions? We'll be reading your questions if you decide to put them in the chat. Backup documentation is high. Let me mention about the risk assessments. The risk assessments will be changing for all the victim services subgrantees. The monitoring of your risk assessment is going to change, not necessarily because of an agency issue. It's going to have to change because what's the guidance? That's the guidance that we've received from the feds. It's an internal DCFS process. It's a grants management condition for us to try to assess them again. It is not an agency issue. If your agency is deemed high risk for an agency decision, you will get an email a memorandum from me, an email and a memo from me signed, indicating the reasons why your agency is high risk. So what I'm saying is, if your agency is deemed high risk because that's what we have to do in order to meet the Fed's guidance, then we are doing that, and we truly do apologize for that. But if we are citing your agency high risk because we have documentation or any issues with the agency, then we will let you know why you are being deemed specifically for an agency reason. Does that make sense? Now, if your agency is deemed high risk, it does not mean that it's going to be deemed high risk the entire year. It's an internal process for us to train our staff. It's an internal process for us to strengthen our policies and procedures and our processes. So you may be high risk for 3-6 months or less. We can always move you down. But I can't apologize enough. I know this is going to cost some work on your end, and it's going to cost a lot of work on our end. But we will have this down in no time, promise. So if you're high risk, 100% of the supporting documentation must be submitted with your request for reimbursement. Yes, this slide will be available to you. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to try to do it right now. So if you are deemed high risk, please understand that 100% of your documentation must be submitted. Okay, activity-based timesheets, pay stubs, supporting documentation to for French, and any itemized invoices of proof of payment.
One thing for the personnel, initially, the first slide, I think, had we require an invoice, proof of payment, and cost allocation. For personnel, the time card is going to act as your invoice. The pay stub, obviously, is your proof of payment, and the activity-based timesheet would be your cost spread.
Okay, for travel and training, obviously your mileage logs, your invoice, training description, registration, receipts, all of that is going to be necessary. Travel is a little tricky. If you are attending a conference or your staff is attending a conference and it has been approved on your budget, travel will be reimbursed after the training or travel occurs. So if we're in September and you buy a air flight tickets for a November webinar or training, that will be reimbursed in November. We have to make sure that that happens first. Okay, so it will never be paid for when you make the purchase or when you register for the conference. It will be after the conference happens. Now, your budget modification is going to come in place now, and also your approved budget. If your approved budget does not have travel or training, we will not reimburse for travel or training. Okay, if the approved budget does not list the personnel that you're requesting reimbursement for, they will not be receiving reimbursement for a person that's not approved in the budget. So please keep in mind your budget must be up to date in order for us to reimburse. If things have to change in the budget, that's when a budget modification comes in, and we'll explain more about that.
Yeah, on the personnel for your budget modifications, if you're just replacing an employee with another employee, so let's say Yara was working there and then she decides to leave for some reason and I replace her, just shoot us an email and say, hey, John's replacing Yara. Now, if you're going to add people to the award, you do need to do a budget modification. So that needs to be noted. Any replacement, budget modification.
Okay, so 100% of your documentation will be required in order for us to process your RFR. That is, you can find that information in the GERS. Here is a citation. Medium and low are very, very similar. So for personnel, activity-based timesheets, pay stubs, any supporting documentation, and a general ledger. We are also required to do spot checks. So we will randomly pick a month from your agency, and we can say, hey, please provide full documentation for the month of July or the month of September, whatever month randomly selected. in order for us to do our checks. And that's also in the GERS. You can go back and read it, but it's kind of like a quality assurance that we want to start implementing, and it's to not lose any, leave any gaps. And same thing for low designation. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I think Sandy had a question.
Sandy, yeah, the slides? Would the
No.
slides be made available?
No. Sandy was raising her hand.
Oh, Sandy. Sandy, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My question is, when you say budget modification, is that the same as the project change form?
A budget modification, I believe Victim Services called it an amendment, budget amendment. I think it's the same thing. A budget amendment or budget modification is necessary when you're adding staff. Okay. It's necessary when you're changing your scope of work, when you are requesting a transfer, or when you're requesting to move categories in your budget. Those are the times where you're going to need a budget modification. If you are approved and you're requesting an extension, that's when you need a budget modification. The only time you will not need a budget modification is when your staff leaves and someone's going to replace your staff. Because we understand that staff goes, it's very common. So we're not going to make agencies be doing that every time somebody leaves and somebody new comes in, replacing the person. But if all of a sudden you have me and John on your budget, and then you're going to add another person to your budget project, you need to request that other person to be added. Does that make sense, Sandy?
Yes, I understand that part. I just want to know if the terminology, you're saying budget modification, I want to understand if it's the same thing as what we've used before as a project change form.
Carla?
I'm not 100% confident about the project change form, but I'll look at it and let you know, Sandy.
Okay. And then I have a second question on
Go
the
for it.
personnel, that it says the fringe, we submit a payroll report with salary and it explains the breakdown of the fringe. Is that sufficient?
No, we will need, if you're paying your fringe, we are going to need your bank statements. If you're paying through a bank account.
Now, all your fringe, like your medical, dental, vision, life insurance, retirement, we do need to see the invoices for that. So we need to verify the amount per employee. Now, things like workers' comp, unemployment insurance, Medicare, those you just need to provide us with proof of payment to the feds or the state.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Now, the budget modification form can be found on our website.
Yes. Let me show you guys really quick. Sorry, you guys are showing. You can come on our website under Programs, Grants Management Unit. And on the bottom here, you're going to see forms. Okay. Travel request is here. Budget narrative is here. Scope of work. And we will be putting in the budget modification. That's the one thing I missed and I was asked to do. I will get that on. Okay. Any questions on the risk assessments? Okay. Reminder, invoice, proof of payments, and cost allocation. This is the RFR form. This is the same RFR form you guys used during State Fiscal 24. This training is for State Fiscal 25. So anyone that has been awarded a grant for State Fiscal 25 and has the old workbook, please let us know. Okay. we have a question. As a government agency, do we need to submit proof of fringe payments? As a government agency, as a county agency, you guys do things a little different. And I believe that process has been approved by our GPAs and our fiscal. Is that correct? Yes. So the counties do their thing a little different. So Victoria, that's a different question answer for you. But yes, we use the information you guys provide. Any other questions? Vicky? No? Let me know.
Nope, thank you. Just wanted
You're
to
very
double
welcome.
check.
You guys are different in a good way.
I know, we're weird, sorry.
I said in a good way. Okay, so the RFR form, okay? So the RFR form is part of the workbook, but that's the August RFR. You'll see September, you'll see every month. This form is locked. This form is locked for a reason. This form should always be locked. This form should not be unlocked. Please do not unlock this form. Any form, including our summary tabs. So this information is going to be filled out with your agency's information. All the information that is going to auto-populate on this page is going to come from the summary page, summary tab. Please, this is the form that you print and sign. So this is the one we received. This is the one we work off. Okay. You don't open it. You don't change it. It will all be right for your agency. It may not be right the first time, but we will work with you to make it right. And again, I can't emphasize how important it is for agencies to not attempt to open it. This is the RFR form. This is where the RFR information comes from. So your summary, okay, you enter your information, you enter your expenses, your staff, your check dates, blah, blah, blah. And this is going to generate the information on this page that you're going to print, sign, and send, along with your workbook, Excel form, and along with all your backup documentation. Some agencies PDF this form, which you should, and some agencies print this form and this workbook and PDF it as well. No need to do that. It's extra work, extra time, extra trees. We don't need to do that because we're going to get your actual worksheet to work off. Okay. Again, this is going to be locked. There's going to be some sections where you enter the information that are going to be unlocked for you to enter the data. Okay.
Now, one thing on the personnel, if you notice the tabular headings there for the fringe, health, dental, vision, Medicare, Social Security, retirement. Some agencies combine those into one entry. Do not do that. Break them down. And then you'll see over to the right, there are some other tabs. You know, the sheet won't expand all that way, but there should be two other tabs with other. That's for stuff like workers' comp, state unemployment, anything else, life insurance, anything else you might have to put in. If you do the other columns, put a note in there. I don't put a text box, put a comment in, tell us what it is. Just some of these submissions we get are quite extensive, and looking for a $6 charge through 80 or 90 pages is kind of tedious at times.
Okay. Now, when you are doing your travel, please make sure that you indicate that on the accurate section. If your travel is going to be allocated across more grants or different programs, please indicate the percentage. Okay, it should equal 100%. If there's more than four allocations you have to do, you can write that down on any of the paper, any of the information you're providing. Just write it down, say, you know, it's been divided under this grant, this grant, this grant, and that way we can take note of that and make sure that we update your workbook accurately. Okay, if you have people here that are going to change, somebody leaves, remember, you have to talk to your GPA or MA to try to make those changes. I did not explain how we're going to be dividing the agencies, but we are going to be dividing the agencies across all of our staff, and we're going to be assigning agencies to our staff. Our staff will be reaching out to you directly and introducing themselves and letting you know that they're going to be your point of contact. The person that's been assigned to your agency will be the person that should be working your RFRs, the person who should be doing all your budget modifications, the person who should be able to answer all your fiscal allowables or non-allowables, and the person who also is overseeing your agency is the person that is supposed to be helping you succeed in your agency. So for example, and this is hard, some agencies will learn this later, not sooner, later rather than sooner, but there's two main objectives in the GPAs or MAs. One is to make sure that we are being responsible with the funding, that we are processing payments accurately and consistent with our policies and procedures. That's one. And the second one is that they are supposed to be, or they are to be, your biggest cheerleaders. So they need to know your agency, they need to know your project, your service numbers, they need to understand, your target population. And it becomes very beneficial because they are the ones that can tell you, hey, you're going to leave so much money on the table. If you continue with this average, you're leaving so much money on the table. Or, hey, if you continue the way you're going, you will not have enough to spend the year, or you're not going to have enough funding in the year. So they are there to help you to analyze your financials and to be able to look after your agency for success. So please, as you get to know your contact person, try to work with them, try to get all your questions answered. They can do site visits if necessary, but it is very important that we build that relationship so that they can help you succeed in what you do best. Let me see. I have a question. Oh, no. Okay. Any questions here? Did I tell you some of the cells are locked? They're locked.
I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
On the summary part of the workbook, are we going to continue adding the allocation sheets, or is that going away?
That is going away.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions? And we would, again, if you, obviously, this is a new form, you're going to need help the first time you submit, please reach out. We can do it with you. We can do one whole month with you. We can tell you where things go. We can look at what you have. Please do not hesitate. Okay, the quicker we both learn each other's way and we can get you trained, the easier it would be moving forward, and the easier we can get you payment right away.
You talk on the date.
No. Which one here?
Any of them.
Oh, yeah.
When you submit an RFR, for instance, if you're submitting for July, you can't have anything after July 31st. So let's say you have your last pay period is paid on August 1st. That's going to have to roll into August. That pay date is the August 1st on the check. That's an August reimbursement.
Anything outside the month that you are requesting reimbursement would have to go into the following month unless we're going back. So if in July you were not reimbursed for something, you can definitely submit that in August, but you can't submit something for the future. Does that make sense?
Now, travel, that's very important. When you travel, if you're going to a conference, you obviously a couple months in advance, you buy your plane tickets, you make your hotel reservations, rental car reservations. You cannot be reimbursed until after the conference has occurred. So if you purchase everything in September, but the conference is not until October, you cannot seek reimbursement until after the people go to the conference in October.
Okay, this is our workbook. Okay, this is how the workbook looks. In the first tab, we have instructions. Please read your instructions, see if they make sense. Look at this slide. Let us know if you still have questions. Please reach out. Okay, you will always have your RFR and then your summary following. Same an RFR for 1 month, the same summary for 1 month. Remember that the summary, the information in the summary is going to transfer to your RFR. Okay, do not try to unlock. We've had agencies that have asked their IT to unlock their workbooks, and they've been able to do that. And unfortunately, we have to give you a new workbook that's locked and have you go back to the first month and re-enter all the information back again. It is very important that you do not do that. Every workbook is different. Even though we're using the same workbook, every workbook is different because it's made detailed to the agency. So no program is the same. No agency is the same. We're not hiring the same people. We're not running the same people. They're not working the same hours. So please do not change that. If it needs to be changed, you contact your contact person. Any questions here?
No, I just wanted to point one thing out. If you go up to the say operating or other, if you're going to request food, food is only allowable if it's mentioned specifically in your budget or in your scope of work. So if you submit something that says,
Operating.
anything, any kind of food, candy bars, snacks, water, it's going to be kicked out. Now, if you're requesting funds for shelters and you buy food for the shelter, it'll be kicked out unless you specifically state on your budget narrative that part of the shelter supplies will be food. So that's very important to realize. We get a lot of that. I just want to make sure we kind of avoid any confusion. So if you're looking for that and you haven't put it in your budget, you probably want to do a budget modification as soon as you can.
And not all grants cover food, but you will note that as we go. Some of you already know, but if you have a question, let us know. Okay, we went over there. Let me make it smaller. Okay, here is side to side. Here is the RFR that auto-populates from this area. Everything will be here. This is the one you print and you sign. Okay, again, please submit your signed RFR along with your actual workbook, the Excel format, and your backup documentation. The backup documentation, if you could please organize it in the order that the workbook is set up. So if you are going to request reimbursement for Yaraset Anaya, make sure that my pay, all my documentation is there, and then John, and then the next one. Please, that makes it easier for us when we receive it to process quicker, to identify any missing documentation quicker, it results in a quicker reimbursement for the agency. Okay, on your reimbursement, your request for reimbursement, if you look up here, right here, you'll have the month and then you'll have the year. So we'll have the month and the year. You're only going to submit two types. You're going to submit your original RFR. So let's say we're doing it's September, we're going to be doing October's. No, what are we going to be doing? September, we're reviewing which ones?
September, you're going to be reviewing any.
August, yeah. Yeah, September 15th. Okay. So yes, so let's say in September and I get an August one, it's going to be an original. So it's your first August reimbursement. Okay. If we did not reimburse changes on you, reimbursed any expenses, and you still want to resubmit and get us that documentation for August, you can do an August revised. Okay, so this is going to tell us that, oh, your original was for this much amount. We only reimburse you this much. So the revised it adds up to whatever we didn't reimburse you. So original or revised, we can get multiple revisions on 1 month. So please just don't ask us. Let us know what you need to do. Let us know, how to submit it. We will be more than happy to help you.
For us, it's easier if you roll it into the next month instead of doing an amendment or a revised RFR. You can just hold it and do it to the next month. That's okay with you.
Okay, a question we have here says, are we supposed to start using these methods now, or will we holding until January 25? Anyone that received a BOCA funding, any BOCA awards for state fiscal 25, we start with this workbook. So when you submit your July's, August, September's, you're going to do it on this workbook. Anyone that has a FIPSA that ends in September, you continue to use the old workbook. Any new FIPSA subawards that go out will be using this new workbook for state fiscal 25. So if you're a FIPSA recipient, continue to use your old FIPSA workbook. Okay, for personnel, okay, if you need any changes, contact your GPA. Make sure that you enter the total work hours and make sure that your activity-based timesheets are also included. If you are splitting a staff member, across multiple grants, your activity-based timesheets should reflect all the other grants. So if I'm working 50% BOCA and 50% FIPSA, my hours should be split 50 and 50. 10, however you have it split, it should indicate each grant, especially importantly, if it's within us. If you have FIPSA and you have marriage license and you have BOCA and you have child welfare and you're splitting staff under the same, we need to see that on your activity-based timesheet.
Yeah. Another thing on the activity-based timesheets, we do have a form that we recommend you use, which, it's optional, up to you. But if you do your own form, please make sure it reflects the paid time off on a daily basis. If you submit an activity-based timesheet and doesn't have any paid time off, but on the pay stub, like say July 4th, that lists they were paid for that day, we're going to send it back and say, hey, we need a better breakdown.
Any questions? Okay, employer paid. This is your fringe. We will reimburse fringe. We will only reimburse employer paid fringe. We will not reimburse anything that's paid by the employee. So please make sure that, I'm gonna make this bigger, report your health insurance, dental, vision, Medicare. If you have any others, like explained in the beginning of this webinar, PERS, life insurance, please indicate the amounts. Do not just add it up. Do not summarize all amounts and put them in one. Please break them down. Let us know if it's PERS, if it's life insurance. Give us a note, write it on another tab. Let us know. If this is something that is going to be reoccurrent on your agency, we can actually include that in this section so that you don't have to leave a note every time. Will you send out DCFS activity time sheets from you just mentioned? We were not going to send them out, but Amber, okay, we will send you one, and we will also update it on our website, and you guys will get an email with our updated website with all the links and all the forms. Okay? You're welcome. Okay, any questions on fringe? Travel, please check the GERS. Travel is here. If you're going to split, if you're going to allocate it to more than one grant, same thing, give us a number, give us a note, give us any indication that you're splitting it. It should always, always, always equal 100%. Okay? One thing to always remember, I know we've said it many times, travel will only be paid after the travel happens, after the conferences occur, after the flight's been used. Okay, if you spend travel in September, but the actual conference is not going to happen until November, that's going to be paid in November. And again, if you do use it for travel and travel is not in your approved budget, we will not reimburse for travel. The budget should be updated before the travel expense occurs. So no, you can't say, oh, well, yeah, but I was going to submit it in December because, the training occurred in November, but your budget was never changed to approve that travel. Please make sure that you are an expert in your own budget and that you are an expert in the budget modification. Same thing for operating. Please make sure that you allocate it to all the grants that you're going to be splitting this cost. If it's rent, how many grants are also going to be allocated this to? It should always equal 100%. Okay, you can write it. If you need to spread it into more, make sure you handwrite it on one of the bills, one of the invoices. Let us know so that then we can find that information and update your workbook. Equipment, Same thing, we need to know that you bought it, we need to know that it was approved, that it was in your budget, that we have the check number, the cost, the, proof and allocation. When we do, if you're gonna allocate it across different programs, different grants, it needs to equal 100%. When we do the monitoring review, we will indicate, we will show that you guys bought equipment through funding. We will make sure to see that equipment, and we will make sure that you have a way to track the equipment per your policies. Match is a requirement of your grant. One more time, we will be basing everything on your approved budget. So if you have an obligation for match, please make sure that you are attending to your obligation. We do have here that match will be monitored. If match is not fulfilled by the last quarter of the project year, your match may be deducted from your reimbursement. Okay, this is very important. We are doing this for many reasons. One is for us to be active in your match requirement, make sure that we can help you. And as I said, once your agency knows how your agency runs, once your GPA or MA knows how your agency run, they can be willing to help you and say, hey, why don't you put that under match? It would get you out of that easier. Also, if we identify it 3 months prior to the project year, you will have enough time to spend it out or to pay for it, kind of, sort of. Did I tell you guys that we need 3 proofs of documentation? Invoice, proof of payment, and cost allocation for any reimbursement you're requesting? And the summary presentation. The reimbursements are submitted on reimbursement basis only. RFRs are due no later than the 15th of the following expenditure. No later. It doesn't mean you can't submit it on the 1st, on the 2nd, before the 15th. The sooner we get your documentation, the sooner you will get your reimbursement back. Okay. Now, this is a note. If a subrecipient, and this happens a lot with big agencies, they don't submit for a while. They don't submit for 6 months, for 11 months. And then 1 month, they're going to submit them all, right? They got 6 months, 11 months, and they submit them all at once. Just know that we are going to prioritize the requests for reimbursements on the agencies that continue to submit timely. It is it is the best way for us to appreciate and kind of reciprocate for the agencies that have complied with the guidance and the timeliness and all of our requirements. So just keep in mind that when agencies do submit all at once, it causes a hardship to our internal staff as well as to our subgrantees and the small agencies. So we will be prioritizing. Please pay attention to the dates. Expenses can only be reimbursed for the month or prior month of submittal. For example, a September request with an October paid expense. The October expense will not be paid in September. It will be paid in the month of October. Please follow your agency's risk determination. You will be getting an email, hopefully by the end next week, with your determination, your risk determination. Please, if you're going to change anything on your project, on your services, on your anything on the project, you need a budget modification. So please, if you're going to change money from one category to the other, we need you to complete a budget modification.
If you could also, when you submit your RFRs, if you could address them to, mail it to the DCFS.
Request.
Where is it? Yeah. Now, the DCFS.nv.gov, funds request at DCFS.nv.gov. If you want to CC an analyst or somebody else, do that. Please do not address it to anybody other than the inbox. CC somebody else. That way, if that person's not in the office, they get sick, they have an extended leave for some reason, we still have access to it if you send it to the funds box.
Yes, that is very important. We do have grants, GPAs or MAs that have a really, really close relationship with subgrantees, which is what we want, which is what we shoot for. We definitely want our staff to be your team players, your advocates. However, we do find that those relationships are so tight that they only communicate to each other. So when a staff member is out on vacation, and then we get an email saying, I haven't received my pay for the last whatever months, we never saw them because you sent them directly through to your GPA. So please, please, please include your GPA if you wish. Please do include your GPA, but also make sure that you comply with submitting it to the funds request at DCFS and V and .gov. And that's because then that allows us to be responsible for your RFR. If you don't include it to the funds request, we never know. Okay, so please do also include your GPA, but make sure that you are also doing it the way we are instructing you to do it. And that way we're responsible and not you. Okay, and our goal is to get your RFR completed within 30 days. Okay, if you submitted RFR and you haven't heard, reach out, call your person. Hey, I submitted that, and so where are am I missing anything? Did I miss anything? Please check on us, check on your payment. We will, we are here for you. And that's the end of my presentation, our presentation. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, there's other trainings that are going to be coming up. And I think in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, we have a training for the girls. Okay, so we're going to host a training for the girls so we understand what has changed and how are we, where you need to check and where you can actually support any of our processes. So that's going to be also required. There is a last page on the GERS that needs to be signed by the program or fiscal. Usually the GERS are more applicable to the fiscal side of the staff, the ones that submit the RFRs. So we are going to need every agency to provide us with a signed GERS form. And that's coming up. You should have already received those invitations. Also, we are coming up with a BOCA reporting new template. We will also have a marriage license. Every program will have a new data request format and a new way to collect and a new reports designed to make sure that we do track this information. I do want to say that I do want to mention that through this audit that we had, there were some questions regarding service numbers. And they were quite an impact. So we are really taking the data reporting more seriously. We are really making sure that we provide you with clear guidance and that we also provide you with the correct definitions for you to understand how to complete the report. So we will have a webinar on that and we will have technical assistance on that. If you need help submitting it, if you don't understand and you want a one-on-one, we are here to provide you a one-on-one. And that's going to be for every program. So marriage license, FIPSA, BOCA, and the child welfare side they already use that template and they've already received that training. Okay, another training that we do have coming up is obviously a program 101. So we will have a BOCA 101, which a lot of you already know, but we invite you to attend a FIPSA 101, marriage license 101, and all the children's grants 101. So I encourage you guys to attend all of them because you never, in the field that you work, it's always good to know how to best assist your clients. So they're going to be, please keep up to all my emails. I always schedule 4. You only need to attend 1. The reason why we put 4 out there is because we want people to have, different times and days to attend so that we can fit your schedule. Any questions? Okay, if you don't have any questions, this is it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, it was a number. It wasn't an H. It didn't show an H.